Gentlemen,
Gentleman.
we've gathered here today to rank all of the Krakens in Magic the Gathering.
Someone made a website called Kraken.
Because if someone somehow stumbled on this without seeing Zorak's ranking of Magic videos before that, we thought those were pretty fun, and it would be fun to do one ourselves.
Yes.
Alright.
We're going
So-
to rank how many tentacles? It's unclear at this point, but there are several Krakens.
Yeah, and
I
quite the
count,
diverse kind of palette as well.
yeah, I count 20 of them. 3 of which are tokens, which is neat. I did not expect there to be 3 different mechanically different Kraken tokens. So what do we think defines a good Kraken?
I think this is going to be interesting, and the reason I wanted to do this one is because I felt like it really took Magic a while to settle on what a Kraken is in the setting. Because like they have leviathans and serpents for other big sea creatures. And they have octopus for octopuses, octopodes. So Kraken. What is its niche in the game, and in I guess just general mythology?
Yeah. I want to see in a Kraken, I want to see bigness. I want to see flavorful mechanics that evoke the ocean in some way, even if it's stretching a little bit. Tentacles are a plus, but not required. And I think maybe a moderate intelligence. Krakens are often in mythology being sort of commanded by someone else, and Lord knows Magic has a lot of that.
I'm sure Kiora's going to put in an appearance at some point.
Wait, what?
She's a big Kraken fan, or I'm not going to remember.
Yeah, Kiora really likes her some Krakens and is responsible for a couple of the tokens here. Tom, what about you?
I was actually surprised to see how many Krakens didn't have tentacles. The first Kraken I came across in Magic was Tidal Kraken, and it's just this like big muscular dude with 4 arms.
Yeah, we'll get to Tidal Kraken. I have some opinions on that guy.
Really sort of broadened my horizons about what a Kraken could be, so that was interesting. But my original interpretation was just like a giant squid, because most giant sea monsters fill some other sort of what's the word, phylum, kingdom, species. But they've seemed to sometimes just use Kraken as a sort of catch-all large sea creature that they couldn't fit into one of the other large sea creature types.
Yeah. All right. Well, that out of the way, I think let's get started with our first Kraken. It's Erixmathes, Slumbering Isle. And I like me a big Kraken, and whoo boy is this a big Kraken.
This is a very big boy.
He's one of the biggest creatures in Magic, period? Like, there's not a lot, like, bigger than him.
Yeah,
I mean,
12 is about where things start capping out.
Yeah, but it gives Autochthon Worm a run for its money.
Yeah, the only things that are actually bigger than him are both versions of Emrakul, Death's Shadow, World Spine Worm, Impervious Great Worm, and Krosan Cloud Scraper, unless we include silver-bordered cards, in which case Infinity Elemental has more power, but not more toughness, and, of course, Big Furry Monster, who wears Krakens for jewelry.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, he's the same size as Galta and Kozilek, that is big.
Nice.
Kind of hard to see him on the art without looking at the full art. Honestly,
yeah, I've got him zoomed in. Looks like maybe kind of a big lobster.
Yeah, it looks like maybe those are claws.
Yeah, I put the full art on the list. But where it's a little easier. He's definitely got some big old lobster claws and a lobster face. He also
see,
just
yes.
straight up has a city on his back.
Yeah.
I like this guy a lot. I like
I'm a big
that.
fan.
I like that
mechanics.
I like that he's so damn big, and he's asleep that he counts as a land when he enters the battlefield,
Yeah,
and
good
he
flavor
stays that
execution.
way until you do enough stuff and tap him for enough mana to like wake him up, and then your opponent can go, "Oh, holy shit, that's not a land. That's a creature. I should cast creature magic at it."
Yes.
I think it's also the only Kraken that's another color in addition to blue.
There are
Oh,
two.
never mind. There is also a black Kraken. I forgot.
Yeah,
yes.
there's a blue black Kraken and there's a blue black hybrid Kraken. But no, I like Erixmathes a lot.
I'm a big
I
fan.
think he might be our number one Kraken.
I would put him at number 1 so far.
Roger that.
Erixmathes, Slumbering Isle. Next up, it's Awoken Horror, which is the flip side to Thing in the Ice. So it's big.
It's pretty big.
I feel like the mechanic for when it transforms speaks to me more as horror than Kraken, almost.
I could see that, and this is definitely it's a riff on the thing. It's in the ice, and that definitely feels more like a horror to me, whereas a Kraken feels like something from the natural world that just got huge.
Yeah, and I mean, it is from Innistrad, so everything there is a little bit horror, but yeah, he scares off all the other non-horrors back into the safety of your hands when he wakes up. He does have some nice tentacles on him in addition to his lobster claws.
Like that, just a hodgepodge of sea animal parts.
Yeah, and he's got some like worm, like sea worm type head parts going on. It looks like.
I think so. There's a lot going on in the head area. I can't quite make it all out, but yeah, the Awoken Horror has some head stuff, some head issues.
It's definitely like exoskeletal.
I think my perception of this card might be a bit colored, though, by the fact that I saw someone do an altar of it where the thing in the ice side was a Magikarp and then this side was a Gyarados.
Nice.
So I like Awoken Horror just fine, but like I do think it might be a better horror than a Kraken in some ways. I think I might like him less than Erixmathes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like Erixmathes a lot more than Awoken Horror, especially just as a Kraken. Erixmathes is a big island monster guy, and this is just it's a neat crab. Awoken Horror here.
Yeah, if you wake up Awoken Horror, things will be fine, although your creatures might get bounced, and if there's any tokens, they're not going to have a nice day. But you wake up Erixmathes, those people are going to have to move.
Yeah, property values are going to plummet. I mean, literally to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Alright. So,
number 2,
next up,
Kraken. Number 1 horror
number
on
2.
the list, at least.
Number 1 horror. And so, next up, from Time Spiral, it's Deep Sea Kraken. Which, interesting thing about this, it only has flavor text on the original Time Spiral print because the other 2 printings have that replaced with the reminder text for suspend.
Oh yeah, and this flavor text is fun. Although, I wish this guy was bigger.
Yeah.
Which Kraken is this? I'm sorry.
Deep Sea Kraken.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's fairly middling size by Kraken standards. He's still like a big creature, but he's not the biggest.
No.
I do like that it just kind of started going through a time rift, and it takes 9 turns to get it there, but he picks up the pace if your opponent does things to entice him.
Yeah, he wants to eat some spells. We'll get his tentacles on this side of the rift for spells, and then it's unblockable.
Yeah, he's a deep sea Kraken, so you can't block him. He goes too far under.
Yeah, evasion seems to be sort of a mechanical factor with a lot of Krakens.
Yeah. He has a squid beak.
I appreciate that. I like to have a bit of octopus or squid in my Kraken.
Yeah. He's also got some weird, like, almost reptilian tail spines.
Yeah, it looks like almost like an iguana tail to me.
Yeah.
Some
And
plating, like a crab, a crustacean.
Yeah, and then some. He does have like one little beady like eye, which is not. It's not traditional Kraken, but I think it works here. I like this guy all right. I do wish he was a little bigger, but you work with what you got.
Yeah.
Where do we think he goes?
I do feel kind of like its size goes against it a little, but I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Yeah, is it better than Awoken Horror? I say yes.
Oh, I'll say yes. He feels more Kraken to me.
Yeah. Awoken Horror leans more on the horror side than Kraken. We were ranking horrors.
I think Awoken Horror is a very good horror. I had that other list somewhere. I believe there are a lot of horrors in Magic that might be a harder list to do, but
yes.
Good horror. I do not think he's as good as the Rixmathes.
Oh, no, not at all.
Like, I like him. He's an alright Kraken, but just Rixmathes is a 12-12. And
yes.
And now I get to figure out how to move ranks around in Google Spreadsheets.
I think you can just drag it down one row, maybe?
Oh, I think I did it.
Yeah, there you go.
I was clicking and dragging, and it was doing like a big selection thing. I must have just found the right place to click.
Alright. Deep Sea Kraken. Number 2 Kraken. Next up, if Core Set 2121 spoilers hadn't just come out, it would be the newest Kraken. It's Gyruda, Doom of Depths. Which I always think is Doom of the Depths, but, you know.
Oh yeah, there's no V here. I've been saying this card wrong this entire time.
Me too. I only noticed that yesterday.
Demon Kraken.
Yeah, get that another extra creature type.
Also, probably the Kraken that most people know and hate from this list.
Yes, I think this is the one that's probably seen the most tournament play.
I don't even know if Gyruda lasted that long. Those companion decks were kind of a flash in the pan, because not the. So I like Gyruda's look. Very squiddy. Again, it's not much bigger than Deep Sea Kraken.
No.
But he big enough to eat that ship.
Yep.
That sailboat about to have a bad day.
I do like how imposing that maw is.
It is a good maw.
And the enter the battlefield trigger has a drowning theme to it.
Like
drown 4 cards and then reanimate 1 because it's also a demon. I don't like the companion text here, though.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this companion mechanic either. I like the ones that kind of say something about the character of the companion, like Luris cares about little boys. the one that cares about all the creature types is like a nanny. Like the mother
Yeah, I
figures.
mean,
This is
anyway,
definitely more of a bottom-up designed card.
yeah, and like even if I were to really stretch it, like any form of like I can see demons as companions, maybe even converted mana cost restriction plays into like 666 somehow, but the Kraken side, Krakens are not your companion. Krakens are a thing you summon and maybe have some degree of command over. Maybe even like could be your lieutenant, who could say, but not your like companion. Also, I'm Garuda's primary mechanical use is to make a bunch of spark double copies of itself and just kind of I don't think combo engine when I think Kraken. Just I guess it's a little flavorful that it mostly wants to do that over and over again until it finds a merfolk and wins you the game because it drowned everything, but all right. So where do we start? Is Garuda better than Deep Sea Kraken?
I don't know. I like the drowning mechanic on Garuda. It feels very, very evocative of like, you know, terrible stories of sailors getting eaten by these. But I agree. I don't like the companion mechanic. So I'm not sure if how much I like the drowning outweighs how I don't really like the companion.
I think I like Garuda less than Deep Sea Kraken, mostly because it does have the drowning mechanic, which is oceanic and thematic, but I don't like the reanimation side of it. That's more demon. And Deep Sea Kraken also has the it's deep underwater, so you can't block it factor. Tom, how do you?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, Deep Sea Kraken, like, I do appreciate the mechanical flavor synergy with Garuda's enters the battlefield effect. I'm wondering if Deep Sea Kraken's mechanics come close to that on a flavor level. So it has the evasion, and its other big mechanic is the suspend. Suspend, of course, is a mechanic that stretches across the entire set, not really exclusive to Krakens or even big monsters for that matter. So the only Kraken exclusive or Kraken thematic mechanic Deep Sea Kraken has is its evasion. So I'm just wondering how that stands against Garuda's mechanics, despite companion, its other companion mechanic kind of going against it.
I would put Garuda above Deep Sea Kraken, but it's
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Garuda Doom of the Depths is our new number 2. I'll. Okay. Whoop. Deep Sea Kraken is moved. All right. On to our next Kraken from Shadowmoor. It's Isleback Spawn,
my.
which is I played a fair amount with this in the Duels of the Planeswalkers game on Xbox Live.
Okay, so there's a fun story kind of behind this card. I don't. Did you play Lorwyn and Morningtide block much, Jeff?
Only in the context of the Duels of the Planeswalker 1 game.
Well, Lorwyn and Lorwyn Morningtide block, I guess, had a series of lands that one for each color that had some sort of effect if you met conditions for it. The red one was Spine Rock Knoll. I'm trying to remember the names of the other ones, but if you met conditions, some sort of effect. I think it was usually like cards that you would exile from your library that you would get access to once you met the effect. But then when Shadowmoor Eventide block came out, since that exists sort of as an inverse to Lorwyn, they made a cycle of giant monsters that evoked those lands from Lorwyn block, and Isleback Spawn is the card for the blue land. Let me see if I can find that.
Sheldock Isle.
Yeah, that's the one. So this is basically those lands transforming into big scary monsters when Lorwyn transitions over to Shadowmoor.
Yeah, that is the Sheldock Isle on its back there.
Yeah,
So-
it's Carapace.
So there is some fun flavor there, though the story, I guess, might be a bit inside baseball.
No, I think that's Lorwyn and Shadowmoor being mirrors of each other is, I think, at least a fairly. You would have to really not be paying attention if you like saw the cards back to back, or possibly got into Magic later. I do also like the surprise factor of when Lorwyn becomes Shadowmoor. There's a Kraken in there now.
All
I
of a
think
sudden, just a ton of tentacles pour out.
Yeah, I think good Krakens are surprising. I do have one major problem with this card though. Isleback Spawn is very clearly on land in that art.
Yeah, not much water to be seen.
It does have a drown mechanic, but also a freshwater Kraken, which is interesting.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of those.
He's just going for a walk.
It's just kind of dragging himself along with all those things.
It's funny, if you look, I have it on stream, there's plenty of water in Sheldock Isle. I don't know what happened to all of it. Maybe the spawn drank it.
He's a thirsty boy.
Yeah, he's a thirsty boy, and if he's thirsty enough that someone's library has had a bunch of stuff drowned off it, he gets twice as big.
Yeah, he can get pretty big.
He can't win a fight with the Rixmathes, but he can take a punch and keep going.
Yeah, it's definitely a decent Kraken size. You can get up to 16 toughness, which is impressive.
Also, Shroud makes it good Kraken thing. Also good shell mechanic. If he were more oceaned, I would say that's probably flavored as being too deep to target. It feels a little more shell. All right.
So here's something interesting to consider. Do we want to consider Sheldock Isle in this discussion? Because it has a bit of sort of thematicness to it as well. The mechanic I was thinking of was Hideaway, and so each of these lands you get to put one of the top 4 cards in your library underneath it, and then you get access to it when you meet a certain condition. And the one for this is if a library has 20 or fewer cards in it. So basically, if someone starts kind of losing their mind, then they get access to this card, and then it thematically transforms into this Isleback Spawn. Because you see the effect on Isleback Spawn, it synergizes with Sheldock Isle's mechanic.
Like it. I think he is an okay Kraken. Where do we want to start? But I do think we should consider Sheldock Isle. Obviously not like rank it, but it feeds into the flavor of Isleback Spawn.
Yeah, I maybe just like consider it when kind of evaluating its flavor, I guess.
Is it? Nope. Sorry, go ahead.
It is kind of weird that it's on dry land.
is it better than Deep Sea Kraken, which is a Kraken which is on the exact opposite of dry land?
I'd say Deep Sea Kraken's probably more of a Kraken.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't dislike Isleback Spawn. It's just, it being on dry land is really weird for me, even if it does hit a lot of very traditional Kraken themes. Is it better than Awoken Horror?
Yeah,
I would say so.
I would say it's better than
Yeah.
Awoken Horror.
That's also how I feel about it. So Isleback Spawn, number 4 Kraken. Poor Awoken Horror, possibly the best mechanical card on this list so far, but
Yeah.
just,
I mean, it's right in the name. It's a horror.
yeah.
It's not Awoken Kraken.
It's also, interestingly enough, only a Kraken when transformed. It's always a horror. It's thing in the ice.
That's a fair point, yeah.
Right. So, on to our next. It's the first of the Kraken tokens, which is the Kraken token created by the emblem on Kiora the Crashing Wave, and also by Reefworm.
Interesting. Pulling double duty.
Yeah, Kiora's emblem summons a Kraken for you every turn, as Kiora like to do.
And you don't even need to start with a worm.
No, I do.
That's how powerful Kiora is. She doesn't need a worm.
I do like the thematic through line of there's always a bigger fish coming from Reefworm.
That is very fun.
Where very easy to disrupt, but when the Reefworm dies, you get a 3/3 fish, and then because the fish eats the worm, and then the fish gets eaten by a 6/6 whale, and then the 6/6 whale gets eaten by a 9/9 Kraken.
Yeah, that's fun.
So so if we're talking that stuff, I like this token's look.
Yeah, very much.
It is tentacly without just being a big octopus. I like.
It is the bigger fish.
The biggest of the ones available through the Reform. There are bigger fish in the world of Magic, but this is a very big fish.
This is a very big fish.
What's it trashing there? Is that
Looks
a
like
boat?
a boat. Yeah, those are splinters and some
wondering if it was-
sails.
Yeah,
Sinking a ship. Very good quality of a Kraken.
that's what they're here for most of the.
Now, it is technically a vanilla creature, so it's just a big 9/9 body. But how it mechanically reaches this point is just a big flavor win.
Yeah, I really like Kraken token. Got a good look. Got about as much flavor as you can get on a token. Kiora summoning aside.
I feel like it's definitely more on like the sort of traditional Kraken visage in terms of the spectrum of Magic the Gathering Krakens, which I appreciate.
Do we think Kraken token is better than Deep Sea Kraken? I say yes.
It is bigger.
I'll also say yes, and yeah, and it is bigger, and I think size counts for something with Kraken.
Yeah, it's bigger. It's got a good look. It's smashing a ship. It shows initiative, which is what I also eats a whale potentially.
Is it better than Gyruda, Doom of Depths?
I think that's a fair thing to litigate.
I like the always a bigger fish flavor more in like I do like Gyruda's drowning, but I think I like the Kraken token more than Gyruda. It's bigger.
I agree. I like everything about the Kraken token and Reform and Kiora just summoning an endless army of tentacles. Like the Gyruda does some good stuff and some stuff I don't like. I like everything this token.
Yeah.
Is it better than Erixmathes the Slumbering Isle?
No.
No. I really like its flavor. Erixmathes is also pretty flavorful and still bigger. And this is not a competition of the biggest Krakens, but it helps.
It is the biggest.
Next up, it's the second Kraken token from Ikoria and Ominous Seas. It's the 8/8 Vanilla Kraken. So, Ominous Seas,
Oh, this one's different.
Yeah, cycle a bunch of cards, and it makes a swirling vortex, and then after things get bad enough, a Kraken shows up and beats your opponent.
Yeah, I've seen a few of these. How do we feel about its teeth?
I like its mouth is where an octopus's mouth would be, or a squid's mouth would be. Four sides of teeth. I would like it less if it just had like standard jaws, but it seems like it's got like a quad jaw there.
Yeah.
I would like it better if it was a beak, though.
I would love a quad beak instead of quad jaw, though I guess that is more like a traditional squid or octopus.
Also, something that hasn't come up: real big eye, very
Big
good for
eye.
staring at people. Staring at people.
Feels like it's staring at me right now.
That's judging me. Also, bioluminescent tentacles. It looks like.
Yeah, that's neat.
Very neat for a deep sea
color
creature.
here.
Oh yeah.
I also like this Kraken token a lot. I like that it shows up when things are ominous, and if things get ominous enough, it can bring a friend.
Yes.
Is it better than Deep Sea Kraken? I say yes.
I would say yes as well, I think.
I'm kind of leaning no, but I'm okay with it.
Is it better than Gyruda Doom of Depths? I did it myself. Is it better than Gyruda Doom of Depths?
Yeah, both of them are in the same set.
Yeah.
So they share a lot of similarities visually.
Yeah.
This one isn't a demon though.
No, it's not a demon, but it's also not munching on a ship.
That's true.
No.
It's pretty static.
It's
just being
yeah,
like you give me the ship, I'll show you. But there's not one here right now. But I could totally munch that.
I'm not sure the 8/8 Kraken token is better than Gyruda. If only because Gyruda has an active drowning mechanic on like itself. And the token is just the token, even if it's from Ominous Seas.
I like Gyruda more.
Sounds good.
It is bigger though, which is
It is bigger.
I do.
I like an 8/8 Kraken.
Next up, another different 8/8 Kraken. And the last of the tokens, it's the Kraken from Kiora Best's the Sea God.
Now this is a unique Kraken.
This is a good Kraken. It's just as big as the other one, but it's lobstery. It's smashing ships. It's hex-proof.
That is
So
very good.
It's
Oh,
really
yeah.
annoying to deal with. It's big.
I love its head fin. I don't even know what you call that.
Yeah, head sword. He's got big old crab pinchers, legs, and he's got looks like tusks. No, that's a tentacle. He's got something wrapped up in there.
He's wrapped up I was gonna say a fish, but I think it's a longboat.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Smashing a ship, that helps.
Yeah, and he's got another one in his left claw there. This is good Kraken token.
It's very,
Very
good.
good.
And I like the hexproof as the flavor of it is too deep to fling things at directly. You want to kill it, you better shatter the sky. I think it has to be better than the Ikoria token, right?
Yeah,
I like it better than the Ikoria. It's so unique.
It is. Imagine just seeing that like top fin out of the water and you're like it's a shark and like nope, it is so much worse.
Oh yeah. Like we could deal with a big shark. We're the Rosians. But nope. It's all of
Oh, I just noticed his tail is in the art too.
yeah, way back there. This thing's
That-
huge.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That is a long Kraken. I think it's better than Gyru.
I also think it's better than Gyruda.
Is it better than the bigger Kraken token? I like the reform flavor.
I do. It's either I would say yes, just like art versus art and hexproof versus the extra power and toughness. But I'm just wondering how many extra points does the reform flavor give the 8?
So the reform flavor is good, and I appreciate that the 9/9 token is smashing a ship. But you don't need a worm to show up the 9/9. Maybe your friend Kiora can just have them for you, much like
Got
this
so
one.
many. Yeah.
And the hexproof token is showing that it's a very multi-talented Kraken. It's smashing 2 ships at once.
It sure is. I'll give it to the 8/8 hexproof.
Yeah, I think I like the 8/8 better than 9/9.
Yeah, the 8/8 has it paradoxically has a more inspired design, but still kind of sticks with some of the traditional tentacles of Kraken. But I think I appreciate the original design more in this case, and there's triple the amount of ships being devastated. Actually, I think there's 4 if you look at the bottom right corner.
Oh yeah, that's totally a dude's hand reaching over the text there.
Yeah. Getting drowned.
Is it better than Erixmithy's Slumbering Isle?
I don't think so. I like it a lot, but Erixmithy's is just very.
I might like it more than Erixmithy's. Erixmithy's is really good. I like the sleepy flavor. This Kraken's actively smashing multiple ships at the same time. And it has a Kraken as deep.
It does.
Tom, I think you might be the tiebreaker here.
Let me bring them up side by side real quick.
That's fair.
I like that the top spot is being battled over by the lobstery Krakens.
That's true. One of the things I do like about the token over Erixmithy's is that I don't see any tentacles on Erixmithy's.
That's true. This guy's got a few right up on
He's
that.
got like the lobster face, but I don't know what the for those are, like feelers or whatever. They don't read as tentacles.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much leeway you want to give Erixmathes for how for the fact that you can't really see it, but the fact that you need to like interpret it is part of like its flavor. Whereas this Kraken, you can easily see, and you can easily see it messing up ships and just being an awesome Kraken.
Is there a possibility that Erixmathes is just one of these that got bigger and sleepy?
There's a lot of Krakens on Theros.
Yeah, I think
as-
Erixmathes is a Theros Kraken, despite it being printed in Commander 2018, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that would track, like, because that is a very Theros-y name.
Mm-hmm.
This is tough.
So let's see. This Kraken is spawned from that Kiora card, right?
Yeah, the Kiora,
Kiora
that's
Best
the
to see.
sea god.
It's the first part of the saga, and then the second is tapping all non-land permanents opponent controls, and then gain control of target permanent opponent controls because Kiora stole the Biden.
Is this Kraken causing the tap down, do you think?
I think
Through
so.
general mayhem.
The Kraken shows up, and the next turn, all your opponents have been washed aside, because they can't do anything about it. I also used that Kraken token to great effect right after Theros came out, and white control as a finisher to go even above Dream Trawler, so I might be a little biased here.
I do really like that this Kraken is very active and destroying ships. Then again, Erixmathes' whole thing is the fact that it's asleep and passive until activated. So, gosh, I'm kind of torn.
It's a tough call.
But I might also be biased because I'm kind of bitter towards Commander 2018 for how poorly it was received. So I'm leaning towards the other Kraken.
Let's do it. Let's give it to the Kraken token.
Okay.
The 8/8 hexproof Kraken token, new #1 Kraken.
#1 Kraken.
Now
Shifting gears in a big way now.
it's Kraken Hatchling, Zendikar.
It's a baby. Just a little tyke.
Apparently, very tasty.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah. It's got a good mouth.
A good bout. It's not big, but it is big for a baby, and I
Wow.
appreciate that.
I just realized that that's its mouth and not its eye.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
It is.
I never noticed that. I mean, when you're looking at it in card form, holding it in your hand, I think it's one of those details that's hard to notice.
Yeah.
I would have just assumed that the mouth was by the tentacles. That's a weird body shape.
It is. I think it's like twisting around to, I don't know, grab. I assumed that was its claw that it's looking at, but it's got kind of a snail vibe with its shell there, but lots of tentacles and maybe a crab claw.
Yes, Kirkro. So when going through, I tried to find out what Kraken this could potentially turn into, and as far as I can tell, there's only one other Zendikari Kraken on here, and it's legendary. So I'm gonna guess maybe not a lot of these things survive to adulthood,
They must be really tasty.
just like Galapagos turtles apparently are, which is
Tragic.
yeah. Apparently, there were a lot of early problems with them being hunted because they are, I guess, just like the most delicious thing on the planet. Turtles. This Kraken, interestingly enough, less tough than a turtle.
Yeah, I'd say
Each
most turtles could probably take this thing on. They've got, like, especially like a snapping turtle, just crack this shell open.
I have a tough time judging how big it is since there's nothing else in the picture for scale.
Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
we got like something to go on.
Yeah, power toughness wise, it's probably about the size of horned turtle, but it can't really fight as well. It's smaller than I think Aegis turtle is the 0.5 that they just printed. Yeah, Aegis turtle is a 0.5, and that's just a normal sea turtle.
So, yeah, maybe like large turtle sized, maybe slightly smaller.
I'm
I mean, it's important to the Kraken ecosystem that we understand what
Where
they
they-
start out. But it's
So-
not gonna go too high on the list, I don't think.
Yeah.
no. I say we start with the other big shelled Kraken on here. Is it better than Isleback spawn?
It is in the ocean, which
That's true. It is in the ocean.
but I think I like Isleback spawn more.
The Isleback spawn, I think, has reached its full Kraken potential.
That's fair. That's fair. Is it better than Awoken Horror? I'm not sure that it is. And that might be partly because like I looked at the other Zendikari Kraken on this list, and God, do I hate that thing. But yeah, I like the flavor of this. I think it needs to do a little bit of growing up.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is it starts at the bottom. It could work its way up to being an 8/8 hexproof token someday, but it's not there. So
That's true. And who knows? Some might say there's other Krakens on this list that are worse than even this tiny hatchling.
it's possible.
So our new number 9. Next up, Kraken of the Straits. This is good Kraken.
Oh yeah.
It's Born of the Gods, I think.
Yep. I like.
Oh yeah, this is a interesting design.
Yeah.
I like the flavor. Since it's in the ocean. If you have enough ocean, then other things can't block it.
Yeah.
You have to be able to go down into the ocean to fight this thing. I also
do.
like the flavor text.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. It's about to just mess up that ship.
Yeah, they're in for a real bit. They have to know that because it's not that far under the surface. Like
No, they probably see a big shadow and are trying to get away, but it's not. They've made a mistake.
I do appreciate kind of how inscrutable this art is.
it's got like an anglerfish mouth, but also a tentacle beard.
It's very
I
alien.
can't tell where its eyes are.
I think there's like two kind of like dark spots on the top that could be eyes.
Like maybe some crab eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what that whole backwards facing nonsense is that just like one of its legs question mark?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It is very inscrutable. Like you can't quite tell how this creature works, but it's coming at your ship, and you're just gonna have to.
You won't be debating with your fellow shipmate if it's a Kraken or Leviathan in the final seconds before it eats you.
No.
I do like how the back half of it is kind of shrouded in the mist of the water.
Yeah, there could be some tentacles there. There could be like a big lobster tail, maybe some little legs. It's definitely got some leggy stuff on the forefront. But yeah,
Is it better than Deep Sea Kraken?
I think I like it better than Deep Sea Kraken.
I also like it better than Deep Sea Kraken.
Me too. I like it has the same sort of unblockable ocean flavors Deep Sea Kraken, but it scales with the number of islands you have. Which
Yeah,
I think
that gives the unblockable mechanic, I think, a good flavor punch.
Is it better than the Ikoria Kraken token? I think so. It's smaller, but I like the ocean flavor of Kraken the Straits more than Ominous Seas, because while the seas are ominous, cycling is not.
Mm-hmm.
Cycling is how I charge my solar laser.
Yeah, it's how that fox gets so happy.
Or how Garuda
Mauritius.
charges my solar laser so that the person foolish enough to have a Kraken as their companion gets domed in the head.
Yeah. Speaking of, I like this more than Garuda.
I think I do too.
Yeah. He's about to eat that ship.
Sure is.
So, he about to eat that ship. 9/9
But-
Kraken token in the process of eating that ship.
Definitely. I like that token, I think, more than Kraken of the Street.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's where I fall. If the 9/9 was only from Kiora, I might feel differently, but the reform flavor is also pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, from the most recent Theros set, it's Nadir Kraken.
Oh wow, this is there's a lot of ships in this one.
There's a lot of ships here. Now, while it has the potential to be the biggest, and it especially clashes with the art. This thing is a 2/3.
It sure is a 2/3.
Yeah.
It starts off with less toughness than Kraken Hatchling.
Mm-hmm. This thing could try to take down Kraken Hatchling and fail.
It would lose a fight to a grizzly bear with a short sword.
Yes. This is definitely the Nadir Kraken after it's been out on the field for several turns in the art. This is how the Nadir Kraken sees itself, not necessarily how the rest of the world sees it.
I do like the tentacle token thing.
Tentacle token is good. It really like evokes like some memories of like Final Fantasy boss fights where you'd fight an octopus that kept summoning tokens. Kept summoning tentacles. I like
that. I think I do have the same problem with it that I had with Garuda though. Of I think the little bit of constructed play this did see was as part of a combo engine to dealing with the tentacle tokens.
Yeah, that sounds
And
right.
not like using them to like tap for something. I mean, I guess there is some flavor there. It grows more arms that you have it do things with, but
I mean, there's the potential here for just an enormous amount of tentacles, which is nice. I do like that.
there is the potential also for this is I think the only Kraken which can theoretically take Erixmathes in a fight.
That's true. eventually. And
Eventually.
it's messing up some ships.
It is messing up the ships, but eventually, though, it's a 2-3.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't make an imposing presence immediately like other Krakens do.
Like, for all we know, that could be a bathtub in that arm.
Just shouting, Mom! Mom! Bring me more boat!
Where do we start with this one?
Maybe around the Isleback spawn area.
I think I like it better than Isleback Spawn, but not by a lot.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll put it above Isleback spawn.
Is it better than Deep Sea Kraken?
I think I like Deep Sea Kraken more.
I do too.
It's big. It's taking its time dragging itself through a portal because all those. Neither Kraken could eventually get that many tentacles, but
Yeah.
it'll probably just get lightning bolted.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, this is a 3-drop. It comes out, and then there's any number of, like, a dragon could scorch it to death, let's say, and then it's not even in the graveyard, it's exiled, it's just gone. Even Kraken Hatchling is immune to Dragonfire. And that's just, yeah.
I do appreciate that it has a mechanic built around its tentacles, and there is a very visible maw in the artwork.
It is a pretty good maw.
It is a pretty good maw.
But yeah, in terms of like an imposing presence, I don't think it quite meets the level that Deep Sea Kraken does.
Speaking of imposing presences, though, it's Polar Kraken.
Oh my. This is definitely, I think, the era when they were trying to figure out what a Kraken.
It's also
and the first
era
answer
when
was
Blue can't
was
have good big creatures, no matter how much they cost.
Yes. An 11/11 for 11. That, oh.
It comes into play tap. It has cumulative upkeep. It has cumulative upkeep, sacrifice a land, and trample, I guess.
I don't know if any of these other Krakens have trample.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Usually they're just like unblockable if they have some sort
I don't
of
think
like,
they do.
evade.
Even Arixmethes doesn't have trample.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to. I guess maybe you don't really trample over something in the water. You just swim by it.
Well, this guy's getting up on the ice to get at those polar bears.
I do appreciate the polar bears there for scale.
Yeah.
Which the polar bears actually make this like it's very powerful and very tough, but not the biggest.
Yeah, I guess it might be pretty long, but
yeah,
you can't really see that. Just eating an iceberg.
Yeah, you have to keep feeding him icebergs and more every turn until there's no more icebergs left.
I feel like this would be a really fun thing to cast Unsummon on the turn after your opponent pays the first cumulative. Back down to 10 lands. Have to wait a bit.
I had considered the worst thing that could happen is you summon your Polar Kraken and then your opponent immediately teaches it the values of pacifism, but you don't have to pay cumulative upkeep. You can just say, "Oh, this Kraken's not doing anything for me," and then just let it dry out, get eaten by those polar bears.
Yeah. I don't like that it's just like a slug.
Yeah.
I can't even really tell what's going on.
It looks like an octopus's face, and I'm guessing that it's supposed to be like more on the ice, but like under it. But yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it looks like one of those like slimy eels that they make wallets from.
Oh yeah, hagfish. Don't even have jaws.
This guy, the fact that you can't see his teeth makes it look like he's just kind of gumming that ice, dude.
Yeah, like how when you're out of water at a restaurant and they haven't like come to your table in a while, and you're like, "Oh, I'm thirsty. I'm just gonna suck on this ice cube, I guess." I like that the flavor text is referenced again on Big Furry Monster,
Yeah,
and it wears
and we
Polar
should.
Kraken jewelry.
It does, yes. Probably the best thing Polar Kraken's been involved.
Yeah.
I just can't actually imagine ever playing this card.
Oh, it's big, which I appreciate, but it's also I think I like Trample as a Kraken effect less than a blockable. So
yeah, well, we said at the start size counts for something, but I don't know if it counts for enough to get this thing.
Interesting enough, if you look at Big Furry Monster, you can kind of get more of an idea of what it looks like, and it does kind of just look like a big slug and or snake or eel. Because, like you said, it's literally wearing it as jewelry.
Oh yeah, that really is just like a slug. Because the other one's definitely the dragon. It's got a. It doesn't have any tentacles, and it's got like a lizard mouth. So yeah, it's just like gumming on that iceberg. Ugh. I like Polar Kraken best now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's. Is it better than Kraken Hatch?
Oof. I was gonna start a deep sea Kraken. It's.
I would not.
Well, deep sea Kraken was our. I figured it would work its way down, but it had kind of been our gatekeeper. I say yes, but that's because I really hate the Kraken that Kraken Hatchling turns in.
I can get on that, and I will. I think size counts for enough to keep it.
Yeah.
Off the bottom.
Is it better than Awoken Horror? I don't think so.
No.
Awoken Horror has tentacles and other things. Trample's a big creature mechanic more than the thing.
Yeah. It feels like it has trample because they hadn't given cards unblockable yet. I don't know if that's actually true, but
it also feels like it has cumulative upkeep because it has an Ice Age card and is therefore bad.
Yes.
Is this the first Kraken?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. I wonder why this... I wonder... What was it when it... Oh yeah, it was Summon Kraken in Ice Age. I was wondering if they might have just made this a Leviathan, because it kind of has that Leviathan feel, and that it requires sacrificing land. I think that's definitely what it was trying to evoke.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'd be willing to put it above Kraken Hatchling if only for its like historical significance.
I'm fine with it there.
Yeah. It's the first, it's not the worst, but it's definitely not the best.
Far from it.
Alright, next up from Theros, again, this time from Journey into Nyx, it's Scourge of Fleets.
Mm-hmm. Theros really brought out the Krakens. I think that's where we first started seeing a bunch of them. They were kind of like an occasional thing before then, but Theros poured them on. Which is kind of odd, because I thought Krakens were more of like a Norse mythology thing, but they work for the setting.
So I like that it has another ocean type mechanic from like Kraken of the Straits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like this one necessarily as much. It feels more like the Kraken is making a wave.
Yeah, rather than getting powered, concealed by the...
But still, big Kraken make big tidal wave.
I like that it's about to jaws that.
Yeah, it's got the same kind of mouth as Nadir Kraken does. Like maybe this one was one of those that grew out of being a goddamn tooth-ray.
It's interesting if you look closely. It has kind of like two different jaws.
Oh yeah.
Huh. It's got like
That
a
is-
split jaw at the bottom,
Yeah.
so it does like the
Yeah.
try thing, like a graboid.
I think it's a clever use of the really high horizon line to the point where not even the entire ship is in frame.
Also, is doing a very good Jaws impression right now, which
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
might go better on a shark than a Kraken, but I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, it does seem more fish-like than the other Krakens.
Yeah, those could be tentacles, or that could just be like a really long, thin body. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. I do like the
this
little
also-
legs are kind of funny.
It also has multiple arts, which is not something that we see very often.
Check this out.
The Journey into Nyx and Magic Online promos have their own. Where that's a crabby boy.
Yeah, it gets real crabby in this other art. Huh.
Oh, look at that.
I think I might like the promo art more. It's smashing up a ship real good. I also like that it implies that multiple types of Krakens can be the Scourge fleets. All that's really required is that they scare everything off or make a wave big enough that everybody has to go back to your hand.
That's interesting.
Like a weird inverted whale tail.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that tail, but it is kind of neat.
Is it better than Deep Sea Kraken? I think so.
I think I could get down with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I was less sold on it before seeing the crab art. He's both about to and actively in the process of fucking up a ship all at once. I like that. Is it better than the 8/8 Kraken token?
I'm also going to say yes there.
I think so. Is it better than Gyruda? I think it is, but only barely. Like I like its ocean mechanic. I like both of its looks kind of in different ways. One has a very good maw. The other's got very good weird ocean bits. But I think Kraken of Straits does the Islands Matter mechanic better.
Yeah. I'm fine with below Kraken of the Straits, but above Gyruda.
I think that's a good place for it.
All right. Fleet's our new number 5. Next up, another Theros Kraken.
Yep.
Shipbreaker Kraken, which also has multiple
Has
arts.
a couple arts, yeah. I will say in the other art, not breaking a ship.
I think he's got one in the. You're talking the promo art.
I think so, yeah.
I think it's got some kind of ship wrapped up in its like back
okay.
there.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see back. So yes, okay, it's breaking a ship. That was my one complaint. But
That is also the bravest man.
yeah,
It's got just like a little pike.
He's got God's willing ready to go. Come at him. I like both of it. I like it's actively in the process of messing up some ships. monstrosity is a really good keyword for a Kraken.
It really is. And this thing is big and then gets much bigger and like tidal waves.
Yeah, it like when it becomes monstrous, it grabs 4 of your creatures and it doesn't give them back. You have to deal with it if you want those creatures untapped.
Yeah. I love on the I guess the regular art. I like the combo of like crab and serpent body. That feels very.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, there's a brave person with a spear in both artworks.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess
Yeah,
both have
multiple
crab
in
and
the
serpent. Yeah.
regular one.
Unlike the other card with multiple arts, I feel like this is kind of the same creature. It's just like different artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, the way it's gripping the ship is pretty much identical as well.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting. It's like they sent the same art description to 2 artists and just liked both.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
I like this.
Me too.
Alright. Is it better than Kraken of the Straits? I think so.
I would say yes.
Let me look at Kraken of the Strait. Yeah, I would say so as well.
Is it better than the 9/9 Kraken token? I think it is. It
I
can
think-
be bigger. It doesn't start that way, but monstrosity is such a good like line on a Kraken card.
I agree.
Yeah,
I like this more than the 9/9.
Is it better than Rixpathes? I also think so. I think personally this might be not my number 1 Kraken so far, but we'll get there. Maybe. I don't know how the you guys feel.
You know what? I think I could agree with that. It's got the size I'd want from a Kraken. It's got a very Kraken-y mechanic. It's Shipbreaker is right in the name. It feels like the most Kraken-y.
So is it our new number 1? Better than the hexproof Kraken token?
let me bring up that token again.
It is a very good token.
It sure is.
Turns out maybe Theros is not the best place to live anywhere near an ocean.
Yeah, I think I might like Shipbreaker a little better. It can get bigger. It's more. I think it's more like mechanically communicates breaking ships than the hexproof Kraken token does.
Congratulations, Shipbreaker Kraken. The best Kraken so far. Got the. Next up, yet another Theros Kraken. It's Shoal Kraken.
Oh yeah, he just wants a friend.
You just want him want. God, Thassa is such a jerk. So many Krakens blinking your agents of treachery. Just not a pleasantly. So Shoal Kraken's kind of weird.
It is.
Yeah, I can't really make it out.
It's I don't know if it was the full art or I just zoomed in a lot. Like there's like an enchanted lighthouse that's kind of shining onto its eye, and then like the stuff kind of the bottom and left of that is the Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, it eats the things that eat the things that are drawn to the light. So, like fish and sharks and stuff. But
That's about all I can eat as a 3/5.
yeah, could eat a nadir kraken, I guess.
Yeah, until it gets big. I don't get a lot of Kraken flavor from this constellation.
Yeah.
This feels more like a creature Thassa made to do a job than Kraken.
Yeah,
I mean, it helps your nadir kraken get bigger, I guess, because it loots, which is it's not the most krakeny mechanic, but like krakens can loot things.
I suppose. Yeah, just hanging out on like sunken ships, looking for.
You give the kraken a fish, it gives you something from the bottom of the ocean. It's helpful, but helpful is not necessarily a trait that can form in my krakens. Pretty good and limited, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that. I didn't draft Theros, but I could.
You could put a bunch of enchantment fish type stuff deck, and it would be good card filtering, and then like lionfish would tap things or whatnot. Is it better than Natty or Kraken, which is the other Theros Beyond Death Kraken?
I think I like Nadir Kraken better.
Yeah, I give it to Nadir Kraken. It's the other small one, but Nadir Kraken has tentacle tokens, which.
Yeah, it definitely has more Krakeny feel. Is it better than Isleback Spawn? I mean, it is in the ocean, but also
That's true.
it's small and doesn't get bigger, and it's got a little bit of Kraken flavor, but you kind of have to like
Kind of squint for it.
yeah.
Yeah, I would. I think I like Isleback Spawn more.
I do. Better than Awoken Horror. I don't. Even though I think Awoken Horror's flavor is much more horror than Kraken, I think the thing it does is more Kraken looting is.
I think I'd agree with that. I think I like Awoken Horror more, even as a Kraken.
Yeah. Is it better than Polar Kraken?
It's more friendly to your islands.
It's more friendly to your islands. It has tentacles, at least.
Yeah.
It does kind of have a Krakeny mechanic, other than caring about islands. Like, you have to squint for it, but Polar Kraken's only mechanic is feed me islands. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could put it above Polar Kraken.
I think I would put it below Polar Kraken, but I'm fine with it going.
I'm fine with that too, honestly.
I'm trying to decide how I feel. I think I like it more than Polar Kraken. I probably wouldn't have said that if I hadn't seen the big furry monster rendition of Polar Kraken that didn't have any tentacles at all and was just kind of a big slug. But that's science. I've seen it and I can't unsee it.
Okay, above Polar Kraken.
Size counts for a lot, but not when the rest of you is bad.
Heading back to Commander.
Yeah, it's a smart Kraken. It's Storm Surge Kraken. I like the hexproof. I like the messing up the ship. Like it's got a good maw. It's got good
Mhm.
tentacles.
Yep.
I love how terrified the guy on the right of the sword is. It's got a good face for dealing with a Kraken.
It's got a ship and people for scale. I appreciate that.
I like it does have the sort of, I was almost more like Pirates of the Caribbean-esque, but like something is directing the Kraken. In this case, your commander, because it's your lieutenant. The Kraken is doing someone's bidding, and
Yeah,
when it's being actively commanded, it both gets bigger and brings you things that from the ships it wrecks.
that is nice. I like the flavor of a Kraken having lieutenant more than I like the flavor of a Kraken having companion.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to be friends with the Kraken, but I do want to boss one around. Also, I like hexproof as a deep down mechanic, and I like the flavor text a lot. Most see Krakens as wantonly violent, failing to notice their meticulous attention to detail when dismantling a vessel, which this one
Nice.
certainly is, so that it can give you ideas.
I do have a soft spot for commander cards. This is the first. I think this is the first cycle of lieutenant cards, and each one was basically a big creature representative of its given color.
Well, also, this Kraken is good value. It's a hexproof 5/5 for 5. That if you have your commander out, it's a 7/7.
Yep.
It's pretty good. 5/5 is a little on the small side for Krakens, but it can be 7/7 a lot of the time.
Yeah, just
Which even then is still a little on the small side for Krakens, but it's still, I think, big enough.
7/7 is my general threshold for it. Does this feel big? Which is one of my problems with Ikoria as a whole.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues with Ikoria's
Yeah.
this conception of how they treated their creatures, but this isn't the time.
I mean, if we're litigating issues we have, if we ever decide, hey, let's burn an entire day and rank slivers, I have like a pit of bile in my stomach that like I can vomit up about the core set slivers.
Yeah.
So
I'd
Tom, I've
say
noticed you've moved down Gyruda preemptively, and I think that's a good place to start.
yes. I like this more than Gyruda.
I definitely like this more. It can be bigger. It's got better Kraken flavor. It brings me things from the ships. It's fucked up, which is nice.
Yeah,
Nice subservience there.
it checks all the boxes for me, and it's a good commander card, which is extra points for me.
Is it better than Scourge of Fleets?
I will say yes.
I think so. I appreciate its gusto. It's with the lieutenant mechanic. It wants to do a good job, and its job is breaking ships.
Yes, that is good.
I would agree.
I also like it more than Kraken of the Straits.
That's true. Kraken of the Straits about to mess up that ship, but mechanically makes it better at going under ships, which is still Kraken-y, but this one gets better, does fighty. Is it better than the reformed Kraken token? I think it is.
I'll agree.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like the I like the 9/9 token messing up that ship. I like that this Kraken has a mechanical benefit to messing up a ship.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Is it better than Erixmathes?
I like Erixmathes more, personally. I love the flavor of just like so big it has like a whole island on its back. It feels very unique among the crowd.
It's mythic.
It's been asleep for a while. There's a whole town, city that's built up there. There's greenery on it. Not Arixmethes feels to me like a natural disaster, but there's an intent and a purpose to Storm Surge Kraken. I think I like it more than Arixmethes. It's not as destructive, but the destruction it can wreak, it feels more purposeful because of the lieutenant text to me. But I don't. So, Tom, I don't know how you feel.
And these are 2 commander cards, so
Yep.
you have to, I guess.
I do
It's
like
suitable that you'll decide.
2014 better than 2018, but I think Arixmethes is actually on the pretty valuable side in terms of commander cards. It's a pretty popular one.
Not to defeat my own argument, but I do like there's a bit of text on Scryfall for rules information about Arixmethes that says if you have like a mimic or something enter the battlefield as a copy of it, it also just turns into a land with slumber counters.
That's fun.
Oh, and if it's like a Phyrexian Metamorph, it actually loses its status as an artifact.
Does it factor in at all that you need green to summon Arixmethes? Which, while I understand UG ramp, very traditional like peanut butter and jelly combo, or peanut butter and chocolate. Admittedly, maybe even a little too much in standard recently. And by recently, I mean like the entire last year.
Yeah.
Storm Surge Kraken is entirely water based.
I do like the fact that, at least from the perspective of a commander player, I do like that Arixmethes is legendary and therefore can be a commander, and its added color does expand the card pool. But then again, Storm Surge Kraken being one color also gives it more flexibility into which commanders it can be employed under.
I think I may have. I don't know how I feel about this, but you bring that up that Arixmethes is legendary. Arixmethes can be in charge of Storm Surge Kraken.
That's pretty good.
True.
And I think I may have to put Storm.
Oh my god! While Arixmethes is asleep, it has Storm Surge Kraken out doing like the legwork to get it.
Oh.
So does it get seniority in that case?
Oh. Ooh, that's really good. It ascribes a laziness to Arixmethes that I don't tend to associate with Krakens, and maybe even like a bit of an intellect in that case. But cephalopods are quite intelligent. I think the fact that Arixmethes can be in charge and Storm Surge Kraken can be a lieutenant is, I think he might go low. I like Storm Surge Kraken a lot.
I do too, but I like Arixmethes a lot.
Oh, I hadn't considered the commander angle. That's. I don't play commander, but if I did, actually no, that's a lie. I would spend too much money on a Slivers deck. But if I had money for a second deck,
The Kraken army,
Kraken Leviathan Tribal.
7/7 army. All right, I'm down with that placement.
I think it's a good place for it. It's still in the top 5.
Next up, from Mercadian Masks, technically, but also 8th edition, which was my first Magic set. It's Title Kraken.
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
this is one of the first rares I remember opening because I started playing a lot around Mercadian.
Yeah, Masks was kind of our first big set.
I don't know how we stuck around for so long.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I left and came back quite a few times.
I also left and came back, but that was because when you start with 8th edition and then they roll right into Mirrodin blocks, which you like a lot because you're a small child who really likes the robot flavor and writes a really terrible book report about those trash Mirrodin novels. And then Kamigawa happens, and it's like, oh, these cards are all bad. What if I just didn't play this game?
Yeah. I think me and a lot of players bounced off of Kamigawa hard.
Yeah.
There's Umezawa's Jite and Umezawa's Jite. I appreciate Kamigawa's flavor probably more as an adult than I did as a kid. Where I was just like, I don't even know what this is. I was not one of the people who was upset it wasn't an anime playing them because I didn't even know what an anime was, despite watching Dragon Ball Z and Gundam Wing. Just thought it was.
We're trying really hard to not talk about Title Kraken.
Yeah, what the fuck is this thing? Holy shit!
Okay, I think my theory is they're trying to evoke the Ray Harryhausen Kraken from the original Clash of, but they're doing it bad.
This is it's really
Also, creature monster on the original Mercadian Mask.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I didn't realize it wasn't a Kraken originally.
ugh. Also, in 8th edition monster, it didn't get errata until 9th edition.
I'm kind of conflicted because I do appreciate that it looks like a guy who lifts, and I have to appreciate that you know, that attention for taking care of yourself, but also the fact that it looks like a guy who lifts. I don't think makes a very good Kraken.
This is some 90s comic book ass art here. That face. This is like they ripped out something from Spawn.
The thing, I have a strong nostalgia factor for 8th edition, and I still hate this thing. I good things about it. It's in the water, I guess. It could theoretically have some more fishy bits where we can't see. If I'm being charitable.
The Harryhausen Kraken has like sort of a lobster kind of tail after its top, if I remember. But with this guy, definitely it's just Machoke from the waist down.
Yeah, it's 100%. The one thing I can say unironically I like without any reservations is the flavor text. Folk pirates are a nuisance to pirates. Merfolk are a threat to the Kraken. They're both appetizers, which is fair. But
there, I put the thing I think it's based on in the Discord.
Yeah, that
you can kind of see it. Yeah, but it's not good.
I think that's this thing is worse than Kraken Hatchling.
Yeah, it has hands.
It has hands. Why does it have hands?
Yeah, I can definitely see the resemblance.
But like, I like the old movie one more than this.
Yeah,
I do not like this thing's face or its hands, and it's from Mercadian Masks, which also probably should deduct a few more.
Yeah, Masks block didn't age all that well.
I mean, it has one Kraken mechanic, but God, the art is so bad. It's the most Kraken.
I think this is the first unblockable Kraken, so I think it kind of like set that precedent. But like everything else that has unblockable did it more. Better.
It's the prototype that does not go into mass production. Except this one did. 3 times.
Yeah.
Just
It looks like it wasn't a Kraken until 9th edition.
Yeah. I wish it had like a tide mechanic as well. Like if it's a tidal Kraken, I wish it had something like to do with the surge of water it's bringing, but it does.
That would probably be a little much for a core set, although it's original printing Canadian masks, and I think
Yeah.
good flavorful mechanics is probably a little too much to ask of Mercadian masks in general.
Yes. But yes, below Kraken Hatchling, I'm agreeing with.
God, to get this out of my sight.
It's a monster.
It's a monster. And yet, well, next up, much better, from the newest core set, it's Talarian Kraken.
Yes, we've talked about Krakens having some intelligence. This is a smart one.
This is a very good one. It's of reasonable size.
I might have to pull up the Gather image. The Scryfall image is kind of blurry.
I think that might be mine looks fairly maybe fresh or something. But yeah, it's got a mechanic that cares about your ideas, which I guess is why it's attacking Talarian Academy. It likes their ideas. I like the flavor text on it. It's maybe not the most Kraken-y, but like I like that it's contemplative, resourceful, and all the Kraken bits aside, it's the perfect student.
Yeah, it's some fun flavor.
It's got a big old bioluminescent brain.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the most straight up squiddy of the Krakens we've seen, but I do like its brain, and I like that we can see its brain.
I realize this is probably a little weird, but to me, without zooming in on the art too much, it looks like it might be wearing a monocle. I know that it's not, but
yeah, it would be fun if it had a monocle. Even if it's not, I like that it's just got that big eye.
Yeah,
it makes it look very curious to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different kind of Kraken that I appreciate here.
I think it's neat
Maybe
that
it's just trying to go to school. It's just too big. Maybe it's not attacking.
Instead of a ship or a person for scale, it's Talarian Academy for scale.
Yeah, that's good. And we need someone to take down Talarian Academy. It was a problem.
Oh, absolutely. It's banned in Commander where Gaia's Cradle is not.
Banned in Commander is a hell of a thing. You need to either be really messed up, just really at odds with the entire format,
or like completely degenerate, like what's that guy? That Sultai elf.
You're you and brother are the only people who would be able to answer that one. I'm not.
Yeah.
I like that when it draws a card, when you have an idea, it twiddles things because it's curious.
Mm-hmm.
I like its energy. I don't know if it's a great Kraken necessarily.
Yeah, it's not super Kraken-y. The Kraken, I think, is just a fun flavor on top of this mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which in itself isn't
so
Kraken.
Is it better than Shoal Kraken, which is another card draw related Kraken? I think so. I like this Kraken's ideas.
Yeah, I think so.
I like it more than Shoal Kraken.
It's better than Awoken Horror. I think it is, but that might be I'm interpreting the tap or untap as it like it's investigating something with its tentacle and it like messes with it. And you have multiple ideas, it can fiddle with multiple things.
Yeah, if you share your knowledge with the Kraken, it's going to get its tentacles into places. That's fun. I think I'll say above Awoken Horror. I'm a big fan of cephalopods in general, so I think some of that love is coming through here because this is the most octopus of the Kraken species.
Yeah. Is it better than Isleback Spawn?
It's in the ocean.
It is in the ocean. And it's It's not big, but it's of decent size.
It has the same power, I think, as Ileback Spawn.
That's true. It's just a little less tough. And Outback Spawn can get bigger, but I think I like it more than Outback Spawn.
I'll agree there.
Is it better than Nattier Kraken? I think so. I like the feeling of the tentacle. I mean, the other one literally does make tentacle tokens. I like the tentacle mechanic on Nattier Kraken a little more, but I like that Tolarian Kraken starts off big enough to beat up Nattier Kraken until drawn 2 additional cards. Whereas Tolarian Kraken could have, like, I don't know, fiddled with your Voltaic Key or whatnot twice in that time.
The effects are very kind of similar with what they take to trigger and what they cost. Because I think both of them you draw a card and pay 1, right?
Yes.
I think I like Nattier Kraken more just because I like having a lot of tentacles.
That's fair.
But I do like the bioluminescent brain.
Tom, what say you?
I think I like Nattier Kraken just a bit better than this.
That's
Their
fair.
mechanics are very similar. Tolarian Kraken's mechanic is more leaned towards academia, and Nattier Kraken's mechanic is more, I think, Kraken-y.
That's very fair.
Okay.
I do think I like Tolarian Kraken more in general, but as a Kraken, I didn't see it going any higher than Nattier Kraken. So
I wouldn't put it above Deep Sea Kraken.
Oh. Well, next up, back to Theros. It's Tromokratis. Tromokratis? Tromokratis.
We could pronounce it like 5 or 6 times and still not get it correct. But Tromokratis.
Apologies to this boy.
Yes.
I like that he's messing up an entire.
Yeah, there's a lot of busted boat.
Mm-hmm.
Also has an alternate art for Born of the Gods.
Oh, let me check that out. Yeah, you get a pretty good sense of scale for him there.
Yeah, very
interesting
similar
color
look.
scheme.
More similar than, say, some of the other promo arts, but like that is a big Kraken.
Yeah, huge crab claws, lots of tentacles.
Nice weird split jaw on the bottom.
Yeah, we've seen that jaw a couple times. It's nice to get like kind of a full-on look at it.
He's messing up ships kind of almost incidentally.
Yeah, he's also doing a better job at messing up a city than the title crab.
He's got 1 crab claw hand and 1 squid tentacle hand.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, and both artworks, in fact.
I also like that when he's not attacking blocking, he's too deep for you to do anything, so he has hexproof. And then if it does attack, you need to throw everything you have at Tromokratis, or no one is willing to fight it alone, even if they could win.
Yeah. Pretty good size. He's got a lot going for him. I don't know if I love him, but he's solid. He's very Kraken-y. He's got all the pieces.
Is he better than Deep Sea Kraken? I say yes.
I'll say yes.
I would agree.
Is he better than the 8/8 token from Ikoria? I also say yes.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
Better than Garuda.
Yes.
I think, yeah, there. Now I think is where it starts getting a little rough.
Yeah.
Is he better than Scourge of the Fleets? Or Scourge of the Fleets? I think so.
Yeah, I think I'll go there.
I like the conditional hex proof when it's not doing anything.
I do like that. It's got I like that kind of deep sea vibe. I love the good Krakens have like some coming up from the bottom of the ocean to mess up stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he does that.
Yeah, and it comes up and you can hit him, but also you really be better prepared to hit him.
Yeah.
Or you're going to lose all of your creatures, or your wizard is going to get punched in the face very hard. Is it better than Kraken the Straits?
Same cost.
Bigger. Both got a pseudo. Well, he is a pseudo unblockable mechanic and a being deep mechanic.
I think I'll give it to Trimocritus.
Yeah, I think so.
Is it better than the Kraken token?
This is where it gets really tough.
Yeah.
For me.
Bigger fish flavor is okay, bigger than a Kraken and is a bigger Kraken. Tromocratus could not take fight. It might mess up some of that Kraken's other friends.
Yeah.
Which, if Kiora is responsible, might be other Krakens.
I like the reform token, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Alright. Finally.
Your favorite.
Yeah, the only pure black Kraken on this list, and the only other Zendikari Kraken, as far as I'm aware. Meaning this is kind of what Kraken hatchling would turn into. Rexiel the Risen Deep. I hate this Kraken.
Got a hand.
Something about the art kind of seems weird to me. Instead of like the ocean just extending off to the frame, it like cuts off like there's a horizon line on the ocean, like we're looking in like a fish tank or something.
Yeah.
It does look like he's in a fish tank.
Or in like a weird I mean, he's fucking up a boat, and he has Island Womp but Swamp Walk though? There's not
you
enough
see this
water
guy
in a swamp 5'8".
Yeah, do you imagine this guy slinking through a swamp unnoticed?
He's way too big. And why a graveyard mechanic and why black? I mean, like, I get it, Commander, like, yeah, but like, oh no, I guess it was printed in World Wake first, which is why it's
Yeah.
Zendikar.
It was printed in the Sultai Commander deck from the first Commander set. Yeah, but it's originally from World Wake.
Like, if this had Demon Kraken, I would understand equally as much as Garuda with the instant sword. But why is he casting a spell from the other person's graveyard?
Yeah, I don't. That is not Kraken-y flavor.
No.
I hate this goddamn
Like,
thing.
maybe if it was like an artifact, I could say it was like investigating a shipwreck, and a shipwreck's kind of like a graveyard. But it's an instant or sorcery, and that doesn't.
It's like a magical spell.
Yeah.
Like
And
Tolarian Kraken is trying to go to school, and even it doesn't deal with instants or sorceries. Krakens aren't wizards until
No.
they print a Kraken wizard. But
yeah,
far they've
that's
gone.
not a changeling. This is like a weird humanoid kraken, kind of like Tidal Kraken, but at least it does have tentacles, like a tentacle beard and a tentacle arm.
Yeah, the best part about this thing is its left hand, which is just 10.
Is it better than Tidal Kraken?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd almost say no. And Tidal Kraken is more powerful, and it's got the unblockable thing, but not specifically for swamps. For no reason, and it doesn't have a graveyard interaction, which I feel those like take away from the Krakenness of it, even though it
that's
does have
true.
tentacles.
Yeah,
Tidal Kraken has 4 hands. This one only has 1 hand.
It's true.
That's my argument in favor of Rexiel, but it's not a strong argument. I would understand putting him below Tidal Kraken.
I hate them both for making me have to talk about the number of hands on a Kraken.
Yeah.
Tom, I think it may be up to you.
I think Jeff might be swaying me a bit. At least Tile Kraken sucks, but at least I think it fits more into the Kraken archetype than Rexiel does.
I can see that. Just a big unblockable guy is actually more Kraken-y than Rexiel is.
God, why
I'm
does it
fine
have
with
swamp
making this
block?
the worst.
It's the worst Kraken. Alright. Time to go up from the bottom. At number 20, it's Rexiel the Risen Deep.
Ooh.
Ugh,
Even messing up some ships couldn't save him.
no. Number 19, Tidal Kraken. I had to defend Tidal Kraken from Rexiel, and that just makes me hate both of them more. We never should have had to have a conversation about how many hands there should be on a Kraken.
No.
At number 18, it's Kraken Hatchling. I might have liked this card more if they had printed any other Zendikar Krakens except Rexiel.
Maybe in the new Zendikar set they'll finally get a Kraken it can turn into.
Maybe we have to revisit and reevaluate if there's another potential.
If it has a potential for not ending up like Rexiel.
It's also one of the only times being smaller is advantageous. Number 17, Polar Kraken.
The first, not the worst. It turned out.
No. Pretty
card
damn close.
Yeah, the card I would least want to play maybe among all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Number 16, Shoal Kraken. Not very much Kraken-y going on here. Just
Yeah.
better enchantment synergy than Kraken. Number 15, Awoken Horror. At
Much
least
more...
it had the good sense to keep its horror flavor somewhat Kraken-themed.
Yes, with tentacles.
And managed to stay mono blue, unlike a certain card that shall not be named. Number 14, Isleback Spawn. Why is it on land?
We'll never know, because apparently we're not going back to Lorwyn anything.
Number 13, Tolarian Kraken. He's trying to go to college. Number 12.
He's going to graduate before I do.
Number 12, Nadir Kraken. Small, but can get very big.
Yeah, and it can get a bunch of tentacles on the board for you.
It does have the touchy factor. Number 11, Deep Sea Kraken. The baseline of what you want out of a Kraken.
Yeah, big,
Deep.
kind of hard to. Yeah,
The GMS Everest of Krakens.
Yes. Number 10, it's the Kraken token for Mycoria's Ominous Seas.
I like its bioluminescence.
Got a nice eye.
Mm-hmm.
Number
Solid
9.
maw.
Sorry.
Solid maw, I think he said.
Yes,
Solid maw.
I remember liking its teeth.
Speaking of solid maws, also for Mycoria, it's 9, Gyruda, Doom of Depths. Still really would read better if there was a "the" on there, but
Must have run out of room. Good
Kraken's
at drowning. I don't want it to be my friend, though.
No, Krakens
Yeah.
are not your friend.
Yeah, if you're companions with a Kraken, that seems like more of a red flag than if you're like the general of a Kraken or commanding a Kraken.
You don't have a mystical, magical bond with a Kraken.
No. I think the only companion that might be less companiony than Gyruda would be Obosh.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine the cathartic reunion artwork with a Kraken.
At number 8, Scourge of Fleets. It's got a neat ocean mechanic, but it's more send running than drowning.
Yeah. More delay than destruction, and I like my Krakens to be destructive.
Number 7, Kraken of the Straits. You give it enough water, it will be very destructive to your opponent's face. Number 6, Tremokratus.
Just kind of does everything you want a legendary Kraken to do.
Good solid all-rounder. Not quite top 5, but stiff competition.
Yep. Good deep down flavor, good hard to block flavor. Very destructive. Smashes some ships.
Number 5, it's the biggest fish. It's Kraken token. Eating that whale.
Mm-hmm.
Chip.
Eating whales, eating ships. That's a Kraken diet.
At number 4, Storm Surge Kraken. It's a Kraken that breaks ships, but for a very good purpose.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That can be your lieutenant.
Number 3, it's the biggest Kraken, Erixmathes Slumbering Isle. Storm Surge Kraken's boss.
Mm-hmm.
It's
God, I just want to fill out that whole Kraken army now.
big. It's very big. Helps you summon more Krakens.
Sure does.
Bit of a sleepy boy, but
Mm-hmm.
so big in fact your opponents don't realize it's a creature until it starts moving. At number 2, it's the Kraken token from Kiora Best's the Sea God.
Yes, so good. Maybe my favorite art out of all of
It's messing up some ships and it's really hard to hit. Finally, number 1, the best Kraken.
the most Kraken.
It is
Yes.
Shipbreaker Kraken. It's got Shipbreaker right in the name.
Yes. You want a Kraken to break ships, and this guy does it the best.
Slaps Kraken, breaks so many ships. This was fun.
It was fun.
Indeed.
Now, I'm sure the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will be very happy to know that we've applied science to Krakens.
Mm-hmm. Important knowledge.